Okay, well, the reason I chose this title is because she's an incredibly dishonest person, just like all the other NRA people and the politicians that support them. They'll say things like, the more guns we have, the safer we are, and yet they don't want guns anywhere near them. So anyways, watch this video, and if you agree with my premise, be sure you like and subscribe.
For instance, what the president just said is that, well, there's no other nation like us, there's no other industrious nation like us that has, mass shootings like this. I mean, don't forget what happened in Norway just a couple of years ago. I mean, that was the single biggest mass shooting in humanity.
69 people killed.
Exactly. Yet they have massive gun control.
And that's the thing about the NRA. In order to take them seriously, you have to be the kind of person who doesn't understand statistics at all. You can't just take one data point and say, oh, this is the be-all, end-all. Yes, Norway did have one mass shooting, but America has them all the time. And, this is a graph here of the total number of gun deaths, including homicide and suicide. And let's look at America real quick. And here the homicides and suicides are separated. But still, it's orders of magnitude bigger. So anyone who says that things are better in the U.S. than they are in Norway has to be extremely ignorant or just insane.
Nice. I mean, you can have a semi-automatic firearm, or you can have a select fire capability going fully automatic firearm. I mean, those are your choices. But the problem is that you have all of these firearms illiterate people. They think that just because you have a black rifle that has a rail and has a scope on it, has a pistol grip, it makes it shootier, and that, of course, must mean that it's fully automatic. That's not the case. These are gun illiterate people. There is semi-auto and there is fully automatic. Those are your choices. You have military
fully
authorized
automatic
firearms.
Is a machine gun.
Yeah, fully automatic
Semi-automatic
firearm,
means you have to keep pulling the trigger.
Yeah, fully automatic means you pull the trigger once and it goes until you release the trigger. Semi-automatic means with each squeeze of the trigger, you get a bullet for each squeeze.
More lies from Dana Loesch. So apparently if you pull the trigger once and you get one bullet, that makes it semi-automatic. So clearly this revolver you're looking at is a semi-automatic weapon. So is a shotgun, so is a musket. It's absurd. The NRA just lies and they lie. And it's all because they don't want semi-automatic weapons to be banned. So they just define every single weapon as a semi-automatic, unless it's a machine gun. And then it's fully automatic. And, that's the thing about the NRA, instead of making an honest case for why we should have this gun or that gun, they just lie. And they're liars, and anybody who believes them is a complete and utter moron.
Well, it's good to see you all this morning. I'm always supportive of people going out and expressing their First Amendment right. Look, I don't want to make apologies for my Second Amendment right, so I don't expect people to make apologies for their First Amendment right. I do wish, though, that we had some in the political class that would stop trying to exploit this 6 ways to Sunday for their own political gain. Now, I know that the walkouts yesterday were organized by the Women's March, which are dealing with some serious anti-Semitic accusations right now, which maybe perhaps wasn't the best optic, but I think that they make it harder for people to be heard when they try to get some of the attention that these kids are getting right now from everyone, because they're going out and expressing their viewpoints.
Yeah, it's amazing, Dana, because to me, my instinct would be, let's protect the schools and then talk about how to do that.
Right.
But it seems as though the message was blame the NRA and blame President Trump in many cases.
Yeah, which doesn't make any sense at all, because President Trump wasn't the one down in Parkland not paying attention to the 45 calls, nor were any law-abiding gun owners who are NRA members. Sheriff Israel had the best day yesterday because nobody was talking about him, and I think that that's how he wants it. No one was talking about his incompetency. No one was talking about his failure to stand up for those kids by answering the 45 calls that came into his department, including calls from the murderer's mother herself, who was even warning law enforcement that this murder murderer had put a gun to her head before. This, of course, after reports came out that he had punched her so hard in the face, he knocked her teeth out. And I want everyone to not forget that the school also had a file on him, a mental health file, because he had been meeting with therapists, where he was telling therapists that all of his gory fantasies about school shootings. Miami Herald has done absolutely amazing work on this that no one is really paying attention to aside from you all.
So anyway, did you catch all that? You know, it's amazing how much hypocrisy and venom she can pack into, about a minute's time. You know, she starts out by saying that the Women's March is anti-Semitic, or, actually using weasel words like their allegations that they're anti-Semitic. And then what else does she do? They kind of whine that, oh, the NRA is being blamed, Trump's being blamed. But then she turns around and starts blaming Sheriff Israel, starts saying, oh, he's terrible, he didn't do his job, blah, blah, blah. The school didn't do their job, they got all these red flags. Hey, newsflash, the NRA is against these red flag laws. So, when they say, oh, they should have done something to stop him, they should have done this, they should have done that, the NRA would be against them taking this guy's guns away. After all he did, the NRA is against red flag laws. It's absolutely insane. The hypocrisy is just so galling. And, she's just a horrible, horrible person.
That does it erase the slate for CNN, who had a shart storm of a town hall, and they exploited grief, and they allowed for weeks character assassinations of law-abiding Americans and indictments of their character, impugnations of their character as people who love guns over the lives of children, them to be called child murderers, them to be said to own Congress, all of these other accusations that they allowed to stand on their network unchallenged. So there have been weeks and weeks of this. Does this one story completely erase the slate of weeks-long, horrible, biased, and I would say reckless reporting? Because in my estimation, Grant, it doesn't. It doesn't at all. So no, media doesn't get a pass on this because they journalismed one time. Because one time they decided to say the truth about, look, this is what happens when a good guy with a gun meets a bad guy with a gun. And you know what? They can continue on down this line. Why don't they all start comparing with defensive gun use with usage of criminals, prohibited possessors, illegally in possession of a firearm, illegally using said firearm? Why don't they do that comparison? And then they can see what kind of headlines they get. But that would disrupt the narrative.
Did you catch all that? The NRA's got to be the only organization that you can use the word shart storm. And, then in the same breath complain that, oh, people are saying mean things to me. The media isn't being honest. They're not being professional. She's talking about a town hall where, students had fellow classmates who were dead. But, she feels sorry for herself. Oh, they said mean things to me. They called us names. Oh, boo-hoo. And, there's no facts. There's no logic. It's just all emotions. But it's not even real emotions. If you look at her face is completely smooth and expressionless and blank. The only thing she has is outrage in her voice. It's so fake and she's just so horrible. I think that's the reason why she's no longer the spokesman.
Dana Loesch, I want you to know that we will support your two children in the way that you will not. The shooter at our school obtained weapons that he used on us legally. Do you believe that it should be harder to obtain these semi-automatic and weapons and the modifications for these weapons to make them fully automatic like bump stocks?
Well, first off, Emma, I want to applaud you for standing up and speaking out. And for anyone who has ever criticized you or any of these students up here, including people who have been on my side of this issue, I don't think that anyone should deny you your voice or deny you your position because you are young.
We want to thank you for that.
I was a very politically active teenager, and I'm on this stage as a result of that. Think of how far you all could go as a result of voicing your beliefs. Now, I want to answer your question, and I want to be allowed the opportunity, which is why I am here, to talk and have this discussion with you all and answer these questions. This is why I came down here. I don't believe that this insane monster should have ever been able to obtain a firearm. Ever. I do not think that he should have gotten his hands on any kind of weapon. That's number one. This individual was nuts. And I, nor the millions of people that I represent as a part of this organization that I'm here speaking for, none of us support people who are crazy, who are a danger to themselves, who are a danger to others, getting their hands on a firearm. And we have been for over 20 years, and I have been screaming about this, which is why I'm here, because I have kids, and I'm not just fighting for my kids, I'm fighting for you, I'm fighting for you, I'm fighting for all of you, because I don't want anyone to ever be in this position again. I want everyone to think about this for 1 second. This goes right into your question. Do you know that it is not federally required for states to actually report people who are prohibited possessors, crazy people, people who are murderers? No? We've been actually talking about that for a long time. Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question. You can shout me down when I'm finished, but let me answer Emma's question. It is not federal law for states to report convictions to the NICS system. It's not federally mandated. That's the big question, and I wish that this network had also covered this more, as other media networks would have covered it. That's a huge, wait a second.
You guys, if I can't hear her statement, I can't come up with a rebuttal. Please.
Wait a second. Do you guys want to stop mentally insane individuals from getting firearms?
You better not get one now.
Yes? They have to be in the system. If they are convicted, you can convict them, you can adjudicate them mentally unfit. If a state does not report it to the National Crime Information Center, when you run that form, this madman passed a background check. How was he able to pass a background check? He was able to pass a background check because we have a system that's flawed. The Sutherland Springs murderer was able to pass a background check because the Air Force did not report that record.
I think I'm just gonna interrupt you real quick and remind you that the question is actually, do you believe it should be harder to obtain these semi-automatic weapons and modifications to make them fully automatic, such as bump stocks?
Well, I think the ATF is deciding about bump stocks right now. The president ordered the DOJ to look into it.
I'm asking your opinion as a representative of the NRA.
That's what the NRA's position has been. The NRA I'm talking for them. These are the 5 million members that I'm here representing. That is what that group's position has been on that. So that answers your question. And they spoke about that before the president made a move, and they spoke about that before Attorney General Jeff Sessions made an announcement about that too. So that answers your question with that.
Just to interject for a second, though. And I understand you're standing up for the NRA, and I understand that's what you're supposed to do. But you just told this group of people that you are standing up for them. You're not standing up for them until you say, I
want less weapons. And that town hall, it kind of sums up the whole hypocrisy of the NRA. And Dana Loesch, as you notice, she never answered the question. She just talks and talks. She can talk for 4 minutes and say absolutely nothing. Just give some talking points that make her seem like she's sympathetic to the students. But if you looked at her facial expressions, they didn't look sincere. She looked kind of, unemotional. She didn't sweat. Her voice never changed its inflection, she's just an unemotional person. And, how can you talk to kids who've survived such a horrible shooting and not get more emotional than that? It's just unbelievable. But, that kind of sums up who Dana Loesch is, and it sums up who the Republicans are and who Trump is and who the NRA is. And they're just dishonest, they're weasels, and they need to be called out. So don't ever forget that. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a good day. And be sure and like and subscribe.